They say that life is hard, that there's not enough to go around, and that it's not spiritual to want money. And repeatedly, they say to themselves, I'm not good enough. I say that life is filled with possibilities. Abundance is literally all around us. And you being here is more than enough. My name is Arabelle, and my assignment in this life is to question the belief systems, to learn the secrets that are hidden out in the open, and to show others what's possible. Each episode, I bring you a guest or a message that will make you question your choices, challenge your views, dig deep into your beliefs, and wake you up to your truth. Join us as we walk through this thing called life. You ready? Let's do this. Hey Jeff, thank you so much for being on the Awaken Leaders podcast interview series. That's probably the most formal part of this whole chat that we're going to have, but I'm so very excited that you're here. I know you were on my podcast before about 4 years ago, but ever since then, so much has happened in our lives, and specifically yours. And, like I messaged you a couple of months ago, witnessing all these people who have come to your trainings, and now all of them out there doing their own thing. It's like you have planted this seed in all of us, and it's now making waves. So you are a very special human being to me and to many people, and I'm very honored that you're here today with us.
Thank you. It's an honor to be with you and who are listening. It's amazing. I know that you're doing incredible international events in Burma now. And for me, my intention is that other people out there that are other leaders, they go spread other messages across the world, and we do this together. So thank you for the work you're doing as well, internationally too, and here.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So this interview really is about you. Like so many people, I also want to know what has happened over the years in your life, because you live your life in such a way that is so unique to a lot of us. So my question that came up in my head was, from speaking on stages all over the world, doing literally like next level events that people have not done ever before, holding a space in your big rooms where the moment you walk in, the energy that you hold is just, I don't even know what it was. It just shifts you instantly. And then from there, then hibernating and really being with yourself and just moving away from that scene, and to now coming out on this podcast. Just tell us where you've been, what your experiences have been like.
Sure. My experience has been a learning experience after speaking with millions of people all over the world. And one of my goals in life earlier on in my early 20s was to be on stage with like Branson and Tony Robbins and other Tim Ferriss and those guys. I read their books, and that was my goal. And I did manage to do that, and that was an incredible opportunity. Then my other goal was to speak and share a message of transformation, and that happened, which is quite great. And I had some financial goals as well, and I had some big mistakes and wins along the way. But I guess some of what I've been doing is not doing as much, and I think that's a really important thing for people to do is to find out who they are beyond the doer. And because a lot of my life was built from a push energy in the beginning, and it did get me to the biggest stages in the world and speaking and sharing a message, and that was great. But it only goes so far. I found myself slightly burned out, tired, and wondering what it's all for, and feeling a little bit, I guess you could say, unsatisfied, and feeling like there's something more. Is this all there is? And now I had that first experience when I made one of my goals was to make a certain amount of money. I did hit that money goal. I thought that's going to make me happy. That didn't. And then I felt like, if I just meet the perfect partner, that's going to make me happy. That didn't. And then if I just live in the perfect place, that's going to make me happy. That didn't. If I just speak all over the world, that's going to make me happy. That didn't. And even though I had read, obviously so many books and so many trainings about you're never going to find happiness outside of yourself, right? And you can hear that all day long, but then when you really go through it and you keep pushing and molding and finding that edge within yourself, I had to come to terms with, hey, you know what? It's really, really not out there. And I had different degrees of that and direct experiences of that through my journey. But I guess at the end, when I haven't spoken on stage in 8 months or so, and when I hit that point, I said, it's time for a rest. It's time to recalibrate. It's time to integrate, because I found that when I was so busy, being busy, I was distracting myself from some of my own work, because maybe the work that was meant to be done for me and myself might have been really scary. So I kept very busy. And so there I was, sharing messages to the world, but I could have spent more time with myself in between that time. But I was so busy being busy, impacting people and all that stuff, that didn't take the time for me as well as I could have. And, I could have beat myself up for it. And I've also heard there's no failure, there's just feedback. And so it was time for me to listen to myself. And so I took some time to reflect and did that. And I started giving myself more space. And from that space, I found that there's a bit of this listening that happens. We move from push to listening. And I started to listen more. And instead of pushing it, being the one pushing things, I feel like now I'm along for the journey. And there's a lot more space. What I mean by that specifically is my days are not, the hustle's gone.
Yeah.
But yet so much is getting done. And I'm very grateful for it. So the next chapter, the reason I know you messaged me a while ago, I was like, I'll message you when I'm kind of ready to get out again. And so this is kind of me out again in 2.0. And I wrote that book, The Success 2.0, during that time, because I had inside of that confusion of what's next. I had realized that the path of liberation, I was running at the liberation path, which is the awakening path, the same way I would run after a goal. So first thing was, I'm going to go achieve my goals. That's going to make me happy. Didn't. And so then I moved to, I'm going to go do that. And I'm going to move to liberation and awakening, right? So then I put the same amount of push energy on my liberation, on my awakening, on my self-realization. But it was the same as if I'm going to go make this much money, or I'm going to have this house. Same kind of energy, push, 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 push. And then I found no matter how hard I was on myself and how much I pushed myself in my quest for liberation, it didn't matter. It was just, it didn't go anywhere. Yeah, I could meditate and I could do retreats in the jungle. I could just go through certain plant experiences, and it all led nowhere. So what I found myself, for the people listening, is that the path of liberation, for me, it ended because of pure frustration. Like I couldn't solve it. And then what began to happen was space opened up. And then I moved from pushing to listening. And now I'm way gentler on myself in my awakening process, in my goal process, and things just seem to be happening at the right time, at the right pace, with the right people. So that's kind of what's changed. And I still don't know. I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah. I actually remember the first time I made $10,000 in my business when I was starting out. That was within a few months after I started a business. And then I came to you and I said, Jeff, I just hit my first 5-figure. Why am I not happy? I thought I would be jumping up and down. And you said, oh, you're really lucky, Arabelle. It's for some people, it takes a lot of Ferraris and millions of dollars for them to figure it out. But obviously, we go back and forth between the push and the surrendering, or just, being really present. But just from listening to your story, I'm already hearing the questions that people might ask. And they're going to say, okay, that sounds easy for you, Jeff, because you've already achieved a certain financial goal and you probably might not need to worry about that. We've got to work. We've got mouths to feed. I can't just not do anything. So what would you say to those people?
Just to be clear to the people listening, that it's not that I don't do anything. It's just when there's nothing to be done, I don't do anything. And when there's something to be done, I do a lot. So there's a time to do things and a time not to. But most of my life, I did things just to do things. Because I was afraid of not doing anything, because I'm afraid I wouldn't be worth it as a human being if I did nothing. So I'm okay with doing nothing. And then when there's a time to do something, I do it. I get more done in a week than most people get done in probably a month or so, because of the teams I have and the people I have and the space I have to think and to be clear. So it doesn't mean if I were just to meditate, and there was for a little while, there was maybe 2 weeks where I was like, okay, I was actually not doing anything. And there became the last 4 or 5 days of that process, I was actually not doing anything. And there was a time I should have started doing something. There were a few days where I was like, I need to do something, and I didn't. And I could feel the difference. There's people that are hiding their meditations. They're hiding from their actions, and they're using meditation as their excuse. And there's people that are actually hiding in their busyness and not meditating. Now, if I'm doing my best, and I still have a learning process, is when it's time to do inner work, I do the inner work. And then when it's time not to, I bring it out to the world. So when it's time to be in action, be in action. When it's not, it's not. But I would say the people that are struggling kind of financially, they sometimes use, I guess you could call, spiritual bypass. And I've done it myself too at times, that where they say, I need to do my spiritual work, which is like, they're reading other books and around the laws of the universe and how it all works, instead of just making sales calls and
Yeah.
building a business and putting content out online. Like they're spiritual bypassing their actual actions. And then
Mm.
there's some people that are taking lots of action. I've met many successful business people that are just in action because they don't want to do the inner work.
So I'd love to know, what have you received so far from being in that space and really listening? And what does listening look like for you?
It's a great question. I'll go to the first one. What have I received? I've received that I'll have everything I need and receive what I need, information in that moment when I need it. So I'm not living as much in the future anymore. I used to have a lot of anxiety about the future. Now, if I'm here right now talking with you and I'm worried about what to say next, I won't hear what needs to be shared. I won't listen anymore. So I receive what needs to be received. If I'm being busy, and then I distract myself from what really needs to get done. So I would find myself doing projects, spending time on things and areas in projects that would waste my time versus the things that are critical. I look for the highest, when I'm really listening in this space, I look for the highest leverage point of my actions. So what are those highest leverage points that we could be doing to grow your business or your life? Whatever that is. It might be making sales calls. It might be speaking on stages like you are in Burma, your highest expression. Like just talking to people one-on-one all day long is not the highest leverage point. You speaking in Burma to 200, 300 people in Burma is better use of your time. So if you have the space to listen, you go, what's my best use of my time right now? So that's what's coming up. And then what was the second question?
The second question was, what does listening look like for you?
Yeah, listening looks like for me in paying attention to the areas I don't listen. When I get triggered or emotional, and that happens to me sometimes, and that's when I'm not listening. So I listen for the areas I don't listen right now.
What I've really experienced myself over the years, and still learning a lot more about myself, like you are, like all of us are,
Yeah.
is the times when I'm not listening are the times where I'm thinking that is very uncomfortable, or it's very hard, or it's going to be very painful. So I keep running away from it. And what I recently really figured out, probably on another level, is if I actually don't run away and if I stay in that, because I've heard of that, nothing is permanent, sit through the pain or sit through the challenge or the struggle. And I kind of understood that before, but I really allowed myself to do that over the last 6 to 8 weeks. And I found that that's actually where the wisdom or that I already have actually emerges, because I'm not suppressing or numbing or distracting myself with so many things. And that's what I want to talk about, because distractions can be very tricky, because some of us, and I see that a lot, especially in the spiritual community, like you said. And when I say spiritual community, just not in Australia, but in other countries as well, because it is a socially acceptable thing. You're doing something good to save the planet, save the world, heal the, whatever. And it becomes a trap. It becomes a distraction. And I know that you've seen it and experienced it firsthand. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I think that in my journey through, I guess, the quote spiritual world, which is the same world that we all live in, I found that it can be a distraction to myself, not wanting to miss out, wanting to be included in this community. Sometimes what it would do for me was distract me from my own internal pain, my frustration, my loneliness, and I had to go face it within myself, and I continually still am. I'm still trying to work it out. But spending time with myself without anyone around me and alone was a great gift that I chose to give myself. I'm not saying everyone should go spend 9 months, alone, not talking to anybody. I'm saying that take some time. Every day, my day looks like hike for an hour, 45 minutes a day to an hour. Meditate in the morning by myself, and I take that time to be with myself. I used to be really afraid of being alone, and I find that there's so much in it, because then there's a lot of medicine in the darkness too for myself. I found out, somebody asked me on another podcast, they said, why did you write the book Success 2.0? What drove you to write it? And I would say pain, heartache, the pain of, wait a minute, chapter of my life, which was a lot of pain and realizing that the status quo of what success actually is not going to make us happy. But then the really painful, hard part for me was, no matter how much, quote, spiritual work I do, it's never going to make me any happier, and I'll never do it, and it'll never be enough. And that's when I went into like, holy crap, there's nowhere to go. There's really nowhere to go. Like, I've done the spiritual thing, there's nowhere to go. I've done the money thing, there's nowhere to go. Now I'm screwed. now I'm just
Mm.
left with my own heartache, agony, and frustration. So what do? Reach inside that pain like into like a bucket of gold and just reach inside and try my best to pull out what it all meant. And I guess that's where that kind of expression came. And I just started writing. I wrote that book in a very short period of time. I just literally started writing in it. And then through that writing process and the alchemy process, I navigated part of my own journey and heard the journeys of others from success to, I guess, more fulfillment within myself. And it's a continuous journey. That's why I call the book Success 2.0, The Journey Through Success to Fulfillment, because I think there's going to be a 2.1, 2.5, just going to keep going for the rest of my life. And that's one
Yeah.
thing that I found very fulfilling is that I have I'm okay with not knowing. I really don't know. I have my own, and I don't have it all together. I have my own
Mm.
challenges, and there's still pain and frustration and everything. And it's a challenging thing when you're the speaking is you want to make sure you look a certain part. And then when I realize that that's exhausting, I'm just going to be myself and people can take it or leave it.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about Success 2.0, your book. What is Success 2.0?
It's the best title I could come up with to going to redefining the term success, because I believed when I started in this that success was about making a difference. It was about making money, making the impact, bringing something new to the world. And I believe that's what success was. And for me, it's just not. And while I still want to make an impact, I think that while the hero's journey is a very common thing in all movies, I think the hero's journey, as Charles Einstein talks about it could be upgraded. There's another level beyond it because it's very centered out in the self and the hero. And I think that was something that I wanted to be, was like some sort of hero. And it just was blinding to my own growth and my own fulfillment. And now my work is really about working on me in the moment for this moment. And generally it'll make an impact on other people because that just will or it won't. But people don't need to be fixed. They don't need to be changed. They're exactly where they should be. And some people around are in a lot of pain, and that's exactly where they should be in order to move past it, whatever that is. And if they
Mm.
never move past it, that's fine. I guess I'm,
Yeah.
quote, unattached.
It's actually really funny because that's something that I have been questioning. Well, I've been questioning a lot of things since Eli was born, and I'm
Yes.
sure you've heard of this. They say that for a woman's initiation is when she gives birth to a child, and it has definitely been the case for me because,
Hmm.
in simple terms, I really now have to look at my own shit to see where am I lying to myself, where am I bullshitting myself, because I know that Eli is gonna be learning not through my words but through my actions. So I really need to get my shit together basically as much as
Yeah.
but
Yes.
then obviously I can't do everything for him because he has his own journey, right? So I've started looking at things really with brutal honesty in my life, and I started questioning a lot of things. And that is also a very trippy experience because the more I
Yes.
question, the more I get confused. Like you said, recently I did the event in Burma, and that was not planned. It happened within 2 weeks, and that was probably the hardest event I have ever put on in my entire life. But it was a success in that sense.
Hmm.
But what I
Hmm.
realized, I actually ended the event an hour earlier than the scheduled time. Because towards the middle of the event, I was doing all these things, people are crying, having all these breakthroughs, which was amazing to witness. But in my heart, I was feeling this heaviness. And that heaviness was from my expectation because I was using this event or the events or the work that I do as a crutch to fill that
Hmm.
void in me. And I realized that, and I was like, what do I do now? I'm halfway through the event, so I decided to do it towards the end, but I could have go on for another hour, which I normally do, but I decided not to. And I decided to go back and stay in the room and just reflect. And I was pretty messed up because I was like, what now? Just like you, I totally get it in my own way, where I thought this and this and this and this, growing up, we were taught a certain way. That's what we were supposed to do. So I did that. Okay, that wasn't it. And then so went onto this spiritual path and did all of that. But that wasn't it either. So now I feel like I'm slowly coming out of that and at the point where actually, which you mentioned it earlier as well, it's not about all these success or plant medicines or meditation or yoga. To me, it's just about being really present. So then that's where I'm at in my head. So then what's the point of doing all of this? What's the point of this podcast? What's the point of
You
these
know,
events? What's the point of everything?
I don't know. Well, I guess it's a perfect segue. What's the point? and then it goes silent. And I think that's the answer. But I see the thing is I'm okay with not knowing. I used to have to
Yeah.
know. So you asked me what the point of this podcast is, and I don't know. Let's let people decide what they want. It's up to them. And that's a very confronting place for myself. It was a confronting place for myself, is to not know. I don't know where it's all going. I have an intention, which is to love myself in this moment, and then that's it, and enjoy my life. And naturally people, hopefully they can, that's a reminder if they can do the same if they want. But to be okay with not knowing was very painful for me, to not know what's next. And because I was built on there was a program of always having to know what's next, where it's going to go, what's the point of this, and what's the meaning of this. And then you get in the spiritual world, what does this mean? What do these signs mean? And it's just exhausting. And so I'm just in a place in my life where I'm so grateful to be on a call with somebody I've known for years. I've got a wonderful gift. Someone gave me this great bird feeder over there, and the birds come, and I just started this new, I created this game for myself where I'd have a videographer come over, and she would come up with a subject where she would say, success and fulfillment. And then I would intentionally not edit the video, and I would just talk for about 2 minutes, and I never knew what I was going to say next. I would just share in the moment, and then it would be videoed, and those will get edited and shared. Some people will like them, some people won't. Where are they going to go? I don't know. But it was right in the moment to do it. And so I guess if we just trust the moment with ourselves, then naturally what they're supposed to do next is what gets done. But it's a really funny thing, because I can hear some people going, he doesn't know what the point of it all is, because I don't. And anyone who says that they do, I would be very concerned. Do they have all the answers to this universe? I don't know. I don't know how many journeys I've done and meditations I've done. I still don't know. So if someone figures it out, good on them.
Yeah.
It's not for me to say. I don't know. I've met the most amazing elders in the jungle, and it's a mystery.
I love that. So I'm hearing the logical minds asking, which I think is an acceptable question as well. Back in 2016, I was living that life where that was like my first level of learning to let go of attachments, which was the physical material things. So sold a house,
Yes.
gave away stuff, had 2 suitcases, a car, and a dog, and then pretty much live a digital nomad life. So that was great. I didn't really have responsibilities per se. I mean, the biggest responsibility I had at the time was Bunny, my dog. But now, people who are listening to this, I have lots of parents listening on this podcast as well. And I know that some of them are at that point in their lives where they're questioning all these things. They've also delved into certain areas with the time that they have, but then they now have responsibilities, children, they need to put food on the table, all of that. So for them to trust in the unknown and being in the moment sounds completely irresponsible. So what would you say to that?
Okay, so I'll just share to the parents, and whether you agree with me or not is fine. I would ask, do you really have control? Because I know for myself, the times I thought I had control, I never had it in the first place. So I used to think I was in control when I never really was in the first place. And so when I came to the realization that I was, quote, not in control, I had to come to terms with the fact that I've never been in control. And then we have to maintain identity coherence as a human being. So then our identity of having to be in control and to get things done, that starts to shatter, and that feels like a death. So I would have deep empathy for those parents who are making ends meet and want to make things work. I can feel their commitment to their children, to their families, to the people around them, to making a difference. And what I would say is, if they want to have a gentler world, they need to be gentler on themselves. So my feedback is, how can you be gentler on yourself? How can you develop more self-care? It's really in the behaviors. You can adjust the beliefs all day long, but if you don't adopt the behaviors, they won't stick, and you're basically bypassing it. So what kind of day do you want, and if you just wake up, you start meditating for 20 minutes a day, you ate different food, and then in the middle of the day you took a walk, even no matter what your schedule was, you started developing habits that were bigger than your circumstances. And what I mean by that is, like, today there's so many reasons why I couldn't go for a hike. There's so many reasons why I couldn't have woken up and done a meditation. There's so many reasons why I wouldn't be on this podcast, because what am I going to say? How am I going to say it? How am I going to look? At the beginning of the call, I was like, oh, you look like so dressed up, and I'm in a great, it's just naturally you, Arabelle. That's just how it is. But for me, I went to, one of my goals this week was to get a new fuzzy sweater and a matching fuzzy sweatpants, because it's cold here. And so I went to the store and I was like, I'm getting a fuzzy sweater. And I bought a fuzzy sweater, and it's not the most dressed up fuzzy sweater to wear on a podcast, but I'm like, that would have been a really great reason to not do it. I've run out of reasons to not be true to myself. And as long as people have reasons, they can have reasons. Here's such a cheesy quote. You can have reasons or you can have results. I don't know who made it up, but it's great. And just goes back to that. But I will acknowledge the parents for being so committed to their children and the people around them by working so hard. And if they want, it's time to be gentler on yourself. And I don't mean don't do things. I mean, just be gentler. Just what is gentle for you? And maybe you answer that. They answer that question on their own. Maybe it's a bath. Maybe it's time for a walk. Maybe it's my mother and my father. My dad started walking with my mother, I think it was 4 or 5 times a week continuously. And when he did that, the relationship made it made a huge difference in the relationship. He's like, he could have all the excuses. I mean, he's very successful in his businesses. He's like, I'm just going to walk with mom 4 to 5 times a week, and I'm just going to do it. And the relationship just started to flower. So, but he just decided to make his commitment. So it's just a matter of what are you committed to? Yeah. But people have heard all this before. But there's people listening, I've heard that before. I know that. No, you don't until you actually do it. That's the difference.
Love that. But Jeff, here's the most important question that everybody's wanting to know. Are you wearing matching pants?
Absolutely. They're the same brand and they're exactly this. Because I have this woman I work with that helps me with my projects. And she's like a project manager. And I know that if I have that in my life, I manage, my life moves forward. It's like every 2 days I talk to her for at least an hour and a half. And we go over the actions. She WhatsApps me what my actions are between now and the next couple of days. And one of them I put on there was matching tracksuit, full fuzzy wear. And I did it. And you know what? When I went to the store and I got it, I was like, yes, one check off. And I got that little bit of a yes. But I know my life I'm not a better person for it. I'm just having fun.
You know what? It's really funny how, similar in our own ways, the space that we're in right now. The other day, I bought gym tracksuits, gym pants from Gymshark. I've been seeing that brand all over. And I'm like, it has been my goal to wear Gymshark pants. And I went online and they were on discount. And then they were like $40. And I'm like, you know what? If I only own 3 of them, this would bring me so much joy. And I hit the button and now they're on the way. And to me, I was thinking, this is the most spiritual thing I've ever done.
You know what? I kind of get it. It's like now the littlest things are the most fulfilling for me. Like literally buying this like fuzzy outfit was a big deal for me. A friend gave me a bird feeder. That was really fulfilling. A friend of mine brought over a suit. That was really fulfilling. And just the littlest things fulfilling. Whereas it used to be, I need to speak on stage in front of 3,000 people in order to quote, do something. Now it's a little moments, I have this place, my house has some land and there's this field, and it's always on one side of the land, one side where the house is, it can be chilly where the mountain is. And then the other side is a big field. And it's just this beautiful open field. And it's so sunny there. And so I went over to Bunnings and I bought one of those big lawn chairs and I just plucked it in the middle of the field. I drove my car to the field and then I actually worked from the middle of the field. And it wasn't really work. It was just enjoying my life. But I made some videos and consulted a few people, but in the sun. And I was just so great. So I'm always asking myself, how can I make everything a little more fun,
Yeah. And for me, I think it's like just from listening to our chat, it's like all of us still have to, despite the gurus saying, the teachers teaching, the books, whatever they're saying, some of them are very helpful and many of them have helped me. And, you are one of those who have helped me so much. But still, although we hear those things, I think that all of us are here to have a certain experience and then we still need to go through a certain thing. Maybe, although we're saying all these things, there'll be the next generation who still go for work, make a lot of money, speak on maybe different type of stages all over the world, and then they'll still get that point, and then some of them will get that realization and some of them won't. But one thing that I want to ask, that's something that has been coming up a lot with the people that I talk to, and obviously probably because that's something that I'm moving through as well, which is something that I saw within myself, is our addiction. And I think we're all addicted to something to a certain level. And I see that a lot of people, whether it's in a personal development or a spiritual community, I see that, I could be wrong, they're addicted to the struggle, because I think the struggle maybe brings, I don't know what it is, maybe they feel that it's what makes them grow, or maybe, what do you think, that addiction to struggle? I just see it so much.
I can only share from my experience, but my addiction to struggle is my addiction to being a victim,
Mm.
to maintaining the identity coherence of not being enough, to get to not take responsibility, to get to feel sad, like, and lonely, and to wallow in that. Because that's, for me, it's safe there sometimes to feel like, because there's no responsibility and I can just kind of feel like, what a pity, it's just not working for me, poor me. And
Mm.
instead of actually taking responsibility, when I take responsibility for it, I have to feel it. I have to do something about it. And then when I actually do something about it, which is, okay, I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna meditate, I'm gonna eat good food, I'm gonna get the things done that I say I want to get done that are important to my expression. I'm gonna do it, even though I might feel this way. I can have my feelings and my wallowing in the driver's seat, or my commitment to what I'm here for. Not like I here for like I need to save the world, but whatever gives me the most joy, I can have that in driver's seat. So I would say that for me, it was that, and I don't find myself struggling as much and wallowing as much. Sometimes I still do, but the time gap is getting less and less because of the behaviors and the structure that I have in my life. If I didn't have those structures, I'd probably wallow around endlessly.
Mm.
But I have the structures that when I am
Mm.
wallowing or addicted to something in that nature, then there's a structure in my life that kicks it out.
Yeah, that's one thing that I saw within myself recently as well, because of my very subconscious addiction to struggle. And
Hmm.
my belief has always been that I have to struggle in order for me to be rewarded. Probably it's a self-worth thing as well. Maybe only then I
Yeah,
am worthy
yeah.
of something happy, something great, something amazing. And I also saw how I get into relationships because of that belief and because of that pattern. So now it's just like buying Gymshark pens, just doing little things to bring back that joy and to remind myself that I don't always have to hustle in business, or I don't always have to
Mhm.
struggle life. And, there can be a balance. But I'm leading into something very personal, which you can choose to answer or not answer. You were in a relationship before, it's quite a pretty well known relationship. And then at one point, you both decided to go separate ways. And I know that it was a very challenging
Mhm.
time. Is there anything
Mhm.
that you're comfortable to share with what caused both of you or for you to make that decision?
If the relationship gets to a point where it's not serving both of our highest good, then I feel like it's time to complete it. And then, but you got to give it a chance. I mean, some people, oh, this is too hard to leave. But I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and I was like, I just want to do what's in the highest good for myself and the people around me. That's what
Mm.
matters to me. And she goes, Jeff, if you just pay attention, and she's a very wise woman, if you just pay attention to what's in the highest good for you, the universe is like a perfect accounting system, and it will
Mm.
actually do the highest good for everyone else. So in the moment, it was very painful to complete that relationship, but it was in the highest good of myself to do that. And naturally, I had to trust it'll be in the highest good for her. In the end, it is, because I was doing what's in the highest good for me. So in the moment, I'm always asking what's in the highest good for myself, but I have to make sure that I'm meditating and I'm clear, because it might be what's in the highest good for Jeff's ego too, and his
Yeah.
and so, but when is it really in the highest good of my path? And so for me, I'm fully responsible for that, co-creating that relationship and it not working. And it was very sad. It was a lot
Mm.
of heartache, because the connection is just, I don't understand it. It's just what it is, where it is. And I just wish her the best in her life, whatever she wants to do in her highest, whatever's her highest good. I just want her to have it. And I'm sure she wants the same for me. So that's what matters most. So, but to say that it wasn't it was painful, it was challenging, it was heartaching, and there were very lonely times as well. And I'm so grateful for the experience, because I learned so much about myself and where I'm going and what matters to me.
Yeah, and I'm finding I've been talking to a lot of people lately and also reflecting on my own experience, past experiences where, if you know something, it's a knowing. It's not you don't get the answer from thinking. It's just a knowing. You just don't know
Right.
why. You just have to do it. And in that
Yes.
moment, it's very painful and very difficult, and sometimes it looks like you're heartless to other people as well. But then when you look back on the hindsight, you start to realize that it's actually for the good of, for not only for you, but also for other people. Yeah. So now I know that we've known each other in the past lifetimes. Probably I was a rabbit and you were a wolf or something. I don't know. But that's actually quite lame. But anyway, I want people to
I'm
know
sure
about
we've
this.
I'm sure we've known each other before. That's how
Yeah.
life works. I think maybe I was the rabbit, you were the wolf. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I always thought that I was either a rabbit or a dog. One of them. I'm not sure. But I was never. I've never
You're
been
probably
left.
both.
Yeah.
You know, there's a saying. I don't know who said it, but it's so beautiful. It says, so there was a man who dreamed he was a butterfly. I'm going to change it for the rabbit. There was a woman who dreamed she was a rabbit, and she dreamed so hard that she forgot that she was a woman dreaming she was a rabbit. So was she the rabbit dreaming that she was? Was she the rabbit dreaming that she was? Was she a woman dreaming she was a rabbit, or she was a rabbit dreaming she was a woman? Like we have no idea. I don't know. It's just this endless like who knows? I may not have said it right, but it was my best attempt. But I think you get the point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Perhaps for everything. Who knows?
Anyway, whether we're the rabbit or the wolf, I just really, I just really
Really nailed it there. We nailed it. We really brought it home there.
this is probably one of the wisest things that we've discussed on this whole entire podcast.
I would say so. And if someone is still listening to this, that's a real deep inquiry. I think we nailed it. This is the part where we give each other a high five and we go, nailed it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want everyone to get a hold of this Success 2.0 book that you've probably channeled from the wolf life or the rabbit life, but from the definitely from the
All of
recent
it.
life. Yeah, from the lifetimes. I want them to get access to it. So if they wanna, it's an audiobook, isn't it?
Yeah, I made it because I like audios, because I like to listen to audios, because books take time, and you can be
Yeah.
like driving and listening to audio. So I decided to read the whole thing. I'm not a professional reader, but yeah, they go to success 2, the number 2 book. So success number 2 book.com. It's there. It's free. You'll get the digital copy and the whole audio, and it's like a mini trilogy series. I think people the response is really good. People seem to like it, but some people are like, I don't understand it. Fine, it's not for them. But the people that seem to really love it, they love it. So definitely go get it and enjoy it. And yeah, please just enjoy it. I wrote it. There was somebody asked me, a woman said she was like hesitant about writing a book, and then in her meditation she came back and said, if just one person reads the book, it's worth writing. I was the first reader, so it was worth writing. But literally, if one person reads this book and it shifts and they get more into themselves and learn more about what is in their highest good, then I'm so grateful. That's just so amazing. And so please go read this book, enjoy it, have fun.
And I'll also put a link to the blog post of your interview as well. And also, I would love people to follow you on Facebook, because you write such great posts. It's just amazing. Like every time I see your posts, it's just a breath of fresh air, especially in the crowded place on the social media right now. So I will also include a link to Jeff's profile, so please go and check him out. But before we go, Jeff, what do you feel is the thing that people need to hear right now?
They don't need to hear anything from me.
Thank you so much for being on this interview, Jeff. But for everybody who's watching and listening to this interview, Jeff's amazing. He's just super humble, but he has so much wisdom to share. So please go ahead and download that book. Take care.